Noah Green finally makes it to top cut again.
All must die.
Happening plebs, so a lot of controversy has jumped out of YCS Denver surrounding a certain top 32 match between Cosmo and Metalfoes. A lot of players took to Facebook and began throwing around accusations of stacking, so hopefully we'll go through this frame by frame and analyze it to the best of our ability, and well, you yourself can draw your conclusions and hopefully we can put this to rest. So for those of you interested, the original Konami video footage will be put in the description, and if you want to watch this game yourself, the controversy begins at around 3 hours, 34 minutes and 30 seconds after the deciding of game 1. So he starts off turn 1 here with a very magnificent turn 1 play of Tin Can set 3, nice deck, but as we can see here, if you take a look, he begins to resolve Tin Can, and in his deck he picks out Anti-Spell Fragrance as well as Imperial Order, brings them to the front of his deck, shuffles his deck in such a way that it appears to be placing the aforementioned floodgates to the very top. He then takes the Dark Destroyer from the dice roll, must be nice, adds it to hand, sends the rest to the graveyard past his turn, and he places his deck in his deck zone without offering a final cut. And his opponent also does not choose to cut his deck. So okay, let's slow this down here. That's a lot of information to process, and we'll go through this point by point, frame by frame. So he begins to resolve Tin Can. He's looking through his deck and chooses out Anti-Spell and Imperial Order, bringing them to the very front of his deck. So point number 1, what reason do you have to take 2 of the best floodgates in the game versus Metalfoes and place them to the bottom of your deck while resolving a Tin Can? What does Tin Can have to do with these cards? So in conclusion to point number 1, I think it's highly suspect and raises a very serious question of why the hell are you taking Anti-Spell versus Metalfoes and putting it to the bottom along with Imperial Order, but I don't think it's definitive proof. So point number 2, we see him shuffle his deck in such a way that it looks like he's shuffling from bottom to top. This is the most common tactic in stacking, taking your cards from the bottom of the deck, shuffling it to the top, then holding them at the top, then shuffling the bottom half while leaving the top part intact. So I'll play this a few times zoomed in, slowed down for you to make your own conclusion. First of all, what he does is that he separates his deck into 3 parts, bottom, middle, top, then proceeds to shuffle the very bottom part to the top in one motion. Then he takes the bottom half of his deck and he shuffles it to the middle while pressing his thumb on the top to lift the top cards out of the way and therefore keeping them at the top. Point number 3, he does not offer a final cut. I saw a lot of arguments and back and forth bickering about whose responsibility is it has offered to cut, he should have offered him, or it's his opponent's fault, he should have asked, and well, let's just make something clear. Section 1, page 13 of the KDE TCG tournament policy document, which I'll leave a link to in the description, very clearly says, the owner may then cut their deck. If they do, they must present it to the opponent, who must cut the deck again and then present it back to the original owner. As far as legalities go, it's his responsibility to offer a cut, which he didn't. So that's another incriminating factor, but again, to be fair, on the other hand, I completely understand people can forget these things in the middle of a duel, people try to play fast, and I don't think that not offering a cut is definitive proof of cheating. Now I'm going to try verify that he actually did stack floodgates, and there comes a point where he goes back into his deck to resolve a Dark Destroyer, summoning Slip Rider to pop a scale, nice deck. He makes one shuffle of his deck at this point, taking the bottom half of his deck and shuffling it once through the middle. The top half of his deck and the top 2 cards, the ones we actually care about and are concerned with, are not shuffled. And again, he does not offer a final cut. Now, it's fair that he forgot to offer the cut the first time, but to fail to offer the cut for a second time is very suspicious, especially since the top half of his deck has not yet been shuffled. And now we come to the final part of the footage, and this is where it becomes a super grey area. At the end of the game, you can see him pick up his deck and see that his next card was a Cosmotown, not an Anti-Spell or Imperial Order. If it had been an Anti-Spell or Imperial Order, we could definitely say without a shadow of a doubt, this was cheating. But because his next card wasn't, what it seemed like he was stacking leaves us with 2 final points. Number 1, he did not cheat. He just messed up a lot and paints a very incriminating picture of himself, very coincidentally, by accident, while doing very suspicious things, but he didn't cheat. And number 2, he did try to cheat, and he did try to stack, but he messed it up. So as for what I think, I personally don't think it's 100%, and I think people are quick to pull up pitchforks and go on a witch hunt, But there's a lot of incriminating footage here. Again, I just want to clarify, I don't think it's 100% at all. It's up to you, and I'd like to see what you think. Let me know down below, and I'll see you next time.